I am Christa Gumedi Buthelezi. I am the editor and curator of Odyssey magazine, and this is my favorite part of my job. Today, I get to talk with a dear friend whose life has paralleled mine in many, many ways. And we've never really sat and talked about it in front of other people. So this should be very interesting. Um, this is Lori Schappe-Youens Saville. Um, Welcome, Lori. I am so glad
Thank
you're here.
you. Thank you, Christa. So nice to be here.
We've been talking about this for a while, and finally,
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
the
we have
last days of
indeed.
the year, we're sneaking it in. Um, so I will ask you, just as I ask everyone, to introduce yourself,
Okay.
because
Okay.
I could go on and on for a long time.
You're a darling. Thanks, my love. Yeah, I was born in the States, even though I sound a little more Canadian than American. In 1962, in the state of Wisconsin, I was born sort of one of five creative kids, very Midwestern upbringing. I would say probably around the age of 15, 16, I started to sort of dabble in the idea of visualizing. That was sort of one of my first sort of openings into spirituality, if you will. I was raised Catholic, but never ever really enjoyed being part of an organized religion per se. And I
That's a
read
really
this great,
interesting term for a teenager, visualize.
yeah, yeah. I read this book, Krista, called Creative Visualization by Chris. It's Shakti Gawain.
Yes,
I hope I'm
Shakti.
pronouncing her name correctly.
I think so.
And that opened up an entire new realm for me mentally and spiritually. It made me sort of think that I can think outside the box and actually have control, but in a magical way in my life. And I've always believed in magic.
Isn't it? So we are, I'm what, a whole year and 2 days or something older than
Yeah,
you.
2 days. Yeah,
2 days. We count those 2 days. So I'm
we
much older.
do.
Uh, you, I'm sure, do. Uh, and, so we grew up in the United States in the 60s
Yeah,
and 70s. And it was a very interesting time. I remember Shakti Gawain's book. I
you
don't know how.
do.
No, no, absolutely. I remember that book, and I'm
Fabulous.
trying to think of another one. So there were just these seeds being planted of
Yes.
maybe we were coming. I mean, we were teenagers before women could have a driver's license or get a bond or a car loan under
Yeah,
their signature. So it was
right.
it was that time still, and the Vietnam War was
Hmm.
raging. So there's a lot of unrest about that.
Yeah.
And yet there were these peacemakers, the planting seeds. Some dismissed them and called them the hippies, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so it was a wild time. I mean, I don't know like if you were more aware of that than I was at the time. I think I was in my own sort of teenage, delirium. But that book was really I've always, yeah, like I said, I've always known that there was magic in life, and that was a transcendent experience for me, quite honestly. And then once I graduated high school, um, I did various jobs and then ended up moving up to Michigan and opened a small art gallery. I've always been a creative, and I always knew from a very young age that I wanted to have a career in art. And opened this little gallery on the banks of Lake Michigan. And one day I was about, I would say, well, it was 1990. A young Rotarian friend of mine, female Rotarian, which was also very unusual for the day, popped
mhm.
into the gallery and she just said to me, Laura, how would you like to go to South Africa for an all expenses 6 week trip? And it was one of those, yeah, one of those bada boom moments. And I just said, all expenses paid. I said,
Sweet.
what's the catch?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she said, well, you have to speak to a bunch of, Rotarians, mostly men. It's going to be, pretty boring, but you can carry it off and tell them about America and about your life. And I was like, I'm in. So I'd go through this grueling process. I
Mm.
was third runner up. And after I'll tell you that, and I knew, Christa, I knew that I would be going. I just knew. And I visualized it.
Hmm.
And the third runner up got sick. The second one bowed out. I think it was just too much. Like, what am I doing? And I was in, and I just knew. I knew I was going to get the trip.
Well, that was still during apartheid.
Yes, yes.
So we were raised, just to give context for, our largely South African viewers, we were not told much about South Africa in school. I did a few
No,
research papers, but
no.
Africa at all, really.
Right,
Um, and seldom was it really in the news. I mean, we
right.
heard Nelson Mandela's name, maybe Tutu's name, a few, but that was
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People complained because they couldn't get the best oranges and grapes and things. I remember that.
Right,
Uh,
right.
and so this was around when I tried to get into the Peace Corps in uh, 81, and it was impossible. And then I tried
Okay.
again, probably right around then, maybe right
Right.
around, anyway, about that time. So, so this, I just want to put that in context that this would have been,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure most parents, I mean, Rotary is Rotary, and people here know it as well.
Mm.
But like Kiwanis, they were able to do things that most organizations wouldn't have been able to send you here. That was a really
Yeah,
rare opportunity. Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. They didn't want me. I asked them why I was third runner up. And it was interesting. They said, because you're an artist. And I said,
There's a
really?
minded organization. Was that it?
Well, they're very conservative, Rotary, and they just thought that I would be flighty and, a typical artist. There we go, boxing people in. And I just laughed and I said, well, actually, I'm probably one of the more normal artists you'll ever meet. I'm very organized, I'm very professional. And yeah, I'm a creative, but I'm also I'm a person you can count on. And yeah,
People. I mean, that's when I describe you to people. I mean, obviously, I lead with artists and all of that,
yeah.
but you have incredible communication skills and the ability to, I think, draw people in or connect people. So I would think.
Thank you. Yeah, as do you. And I think that's one of the reasons that you and I initially connected. It was just such an easy flow from the beginning. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Gene
Yeah, so
thing.
then I went away for 6 weeks. I was married at the time. I was very young. I got married very young at 23. And when I came to Africa and South Africa in particular, I was 20, what would I have been, 28, 29. And so we had had like a 5-year marriage and I was desperately unhappy. I have a little bit of a habit of that, but finally found the right one
Yeah, and
after 50.
right.
Hey,
I will make sure this one works if I have to.
he's a keeper.
I'm learning things I didn't know. So we've both been married 3 times.
Yeah. It's not something that I like to brag about. It's kind of my Zsa Zsa Gabor moment,
It is, but
but it is, it's part of me. It's part of my history. Anyway, I got married very young. He was a
I
lot
want to make a
older.
I want to make a point there though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think getting married young, there's a percentage chance. But
Yeah.
here's the thing: I've come to think differently about this.
Okay.
It, it's not that I don't respect the institution of marriage. I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's to some extent, but it's that you and I have both evolved in big ways. I mean, that's what we're
Yeah.
going to talk about today. Is
Yeah.
this reinventing yourself. Our March issue is coming up, and that's a big part of the theme.
Right.
So if you reinvent yourself, sometimes people are able to do that, to grow and to change and stay in the same. I believe that when you I really think that life is about evolving and changing, and
Yeah.
you've sort
I do too.
of by.
Yeah.
And to stay in a partnership requires just perfect timing of changes within both of you.
Mm,
because ultimately
So
you're not married
true.
to the person that you married.
Right, right. We
In
change,
a
we
big
grow,
enough way,
we
it doesn't
yeah,
work.
exactly, exactly. I
Because
honestly think we shouldn't be allowed to get married until we're at least 30, 35. I think you really, really don't know yourself younger than that. You just
wait
don't.
till after your Saturn return, till after your brain, because your brain is still
Right?
growing through 26.
Exactly. Exactly. I was a kid at 23. Lily, my daughter,
Hmm.
whom you're going to be chatting with as well, very mature at her age. She always has been. She came out an old soul. But me at 23, I don't think I was as mature as she is, and kids today. Yeah.
They're coming in differently. No, no question.
Yes. Yes, for sure. For sure.
Good. All right. So the marriage wasn't working, and
Wasn't
you,
working. I wanted a gap, and I saw the gap. And also, Krista, I had always had this fascination for Mama Africa. Always. I don't know why. This,
I understand.
blue-eyed blonde kid from Wisconsin, for goodness sakes, like where does that come from? But I knew innately that I needed to meet her. And so when we touched ground in Johannesburg, when the plane's wheels hit the tarmac, and I could smell, you can smell Africa. There's a scent. There's a dry, there's just a scent that is so beautiful.
And herbs and people and all sorts.
And even at the airport, and it's the dry heat. It was July and it was hot and absolutely gorgeous. And no, sorry. Well, actually July in Wisconsin was hot and,
Yes.
quite humid. And when we landed in Joburg, even though it was the middle of winter, it was still hot and lovely because it was the middle of the day. And it was a long flight from Europe, Chicago, Europe, and then down. We flew via London. But as we walked down the stairs from the airplane to the tarmac, I touched the ground and I felt this electric excitement, almost
This
like,
story
yeah,
is this. I flew
yeah,
from London.
yeah, exactly. Almost
I
as if
never
to say,
wanted to
I'm
kiss
home.
the ground before,
Yeah.
but I did that time. Yeah.
There was a recognition. And then we went on this grueling 6-week tour of Africa. So we started out obviously in South Africa. We went to
Mhm.
Zimbabwe, Zambia, Zaire, and Malawi. And when we were in Malawi, I met my soon to be second husband, Greg, who was the original camel man, just a wild guy. And I was swept off my feet. So we had about a week together in Malawi. And then I obviously flew back to Johannesburg before departing for the States. And before I left, he said to me, I know you're married and I know you're unhappily married, but one day I'm going to marry you. I know I'm going to marry you. And, well, who can't fall for that, right?
South African men, that's a whole nother, yeah, that's a
So
whole,
charming, so different from American men in the best way possible.
in the best way possible. And
Yeah.
so you were in Malawi, he's South African, just to
Yeah.
make that.
Yes, he was South African, exactly. So I was devastated, flew back, promptly told my then husband it was not working. It was quite tumultuous. He didn't want the divorce, but it was a very, very bad relationship. And I ended up we split up, and I ended up moving out to this log cabin in the woods that was about 10 miles north of the gallery that I owned on Lake Michigan. And it was this beautiful, beautiful old turn of the century log cabin that an old friend of mine had owned. He was a retired lawyer and judge named Vic Lundgren, just a magical person. And at this stage, Greg had stopped communicating with me. Now, these were the days, as you know, of snail mail. And
Yes,
so we would write each other letters and speak only by the old fashioned corded phone.
right. With long distance, which was astronomically expensive.
Yeah, yeah. And then I had kind of one of my second magical moments where he hadn't been speaking to me. I think we had, so when from July, this was now December, January, a good, what, 6, 7 months later, and he had stopped communicating, and I was devastated. You know, I split up with my husband, like I said I would. I was living on my own in this beautiful log cabin, and one night we had a blizzard. I don't know if I've told you this story. And we had this barn. Vic had built this beautiful barn, and well, actually it was there, but he had renovated it into like these beautiful little rooms for his grandkids. And he had a library in the barn. So there were all these closed off rooms that were heated with little cobblestone floors, and incredibly charming. And in his office, he said I could use that as my studio. And at that time, I was just doing tiny little watercolors and, simple pieces. And I was surrounded by bookshelves and all of his books on law and botany and whatever. And I'm looking out this bay window. The snow is flying, and I turn on the radio. You're gonna love this. And what song is on the radio but "I Bless the Rains Down in Africa" by Toto. And it's like I burst into tears. I just burst into tears. And I literally say out loud, tell me what to do. Like, either get this man out of my mind or tell me what to do. And I'm sobbing. And the voice, the proverbial voice, literally said, clear as day, go to the bookshelf. So I got up, I went over to the bookshelf. I picked the first book that my hand laid on, and it was, I kid you not, a map of South Africa. And the title of the book, this is the best part, was Unfinished Business. Can you believe?
I can. I did a very long consult for someone yesterday, their first consult ever, and ended up being
Okay.
3 hours, which I normally don't do, but it was what
Okay.
was a traditional consult.
Yeah,
And,
lovely.
and it came up again, but it's been coming up several times over the last with people I've been talking to. I've just been explaining, and I'm curious about how you see this. People have been asking me, so these voices, what you hear,
Yes, of course. Yeah,
the old people, you know,
right.
who are they? And yes, I hear things, but I don't know who it is. So I'm inclined, part of me wonders if I'm schizophrenic, which I certainly went through at one time too. I was working with the homeless and dealing with a lot of
Sure,
schizophrenia.
sure.
I can't tell anyone about this,
Yeah.
you know, but then I happened to see Bashar, a video of Bashar
Okay.
through Daryl, what's his name? And he said exactly this, that often your guides, angels, ancestors, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
will speak to you through easily recognizable things. They will make it as easy as possible.
Right, right.
If we write off, we're taught to, oh, that's silly. Oh, don't pay attention to that. Or that's a coincidence. I don't believe in
Yes.
coincidence.
The coincidence is the big one. Yeah.
Yeah. I call them synchronicities, which is a very
Yes.
different synchronicity,
Ex-
the coming together of that world.
exactly. Yeah.
So here's a prime example. I mean,
Prime example.
you see it the same way, is that they just show us
Yes.
different ways.
Yes. Quite literally. Yeah.
If we
That
don't
you have
listen, it gets
unfinished.
louder.
Yeah. You have unfinished business in South Africa. Yeah. So the next day, I started laughing and locked up the studio and made my way the little walkway through the snow, through the blizzard into the house with my golden retriever on my heels. And I called a girlfriend of mine. Her name was also Lori, funnily enough. And she had been a foreign exchange student in high school. And she had had some time in South Africa. And I said, would you like to go back to South Africa with me? Lori and Lori. I said, I've got to find out what's gone on with this guy. And she said, absolutely. So that was, I think it was January. And we booked our tickets for that July. And we landed, and I looked him up. I called and he called me back and he said, "Can I see you?" And I said, "Well, not until I get back from Zimbabwe, that we're spending a few days in Cape Town. Then we were going to go to Zimbabwe to visit some of the Rotarian friends that I had met." And I kind of made him wait because now I'm pissed off, you know? But I want to hear the story. I want to figure out what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, long and short of it is we got to Johannesburg and we met up. And he just explained to me, he just said, I met you and I thought it was too good to be true. I told people, I met this amazing American woman. She's going to move here and marry me. And people said to him, "Are you crazy?" Yeah.
Again, like the good comes to us, and this is so classic, and this is coming up a lot too. This whole idea of calling the third world country thing, that
Yeah.
creating that caste or that status.
Right.
So
Right.
people here have very sadly, and through a lot of tragic events, but those kind of classifications, and current administration only grinding it in.
Right. Right.
But this can be, but women often don't believe we deserve as much, or if we grew up in a less, well-off household, there's all of that. We just
Mm,
take good things that are right in front of us and throw them away.
yeah. Yeah. Instead of just accepting the fact that it's a little bit of grace that's fallen into your lap and
Or in
saying thank
of
you.
itself and a view to say, well, let's see, but right now this
Right.
is great.
Right. Yeah. 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 Exactly. So anyway, we had this great
All the way
conversation.
back.
Hey,
So you had
what's
to try
that?
that. You had to come and sort that out.
I had to come and sort that out. So anyway, long and short of it is I spent a few days with him in Joburg and he proposed as he said he was going to. And I remember calling my mother and my sister. And of course, it was the middle of the night there. And I just said, "I'm getting married. I found Greg. I'm getting married." And they all just kind of went, "What?" My poor family, what I've put them through. Anyway,
They
so
got
that
great
was,
grandchildren out of it, so whatever.
yeah. So that was that would have been July of 1991. Was it 91, I believe? No, that would have been, I came in 91, went back in 92, and then he came to the States in 93, and I went back with him, moved back with him to Johannesburg to this adorable little village called Melville, cool little artistic village. Said goodbye to my family. I mean, if I think about it now, Christa, how insanely brave that was. But it just, again, I felt led. I
And
really
when,
felt,
so yeah, let's expand on this because this is
uh-huh.
something you and I have been through several times in our lives. Um, and that's, people will say, "Oh, you were so brave. Oh, you were so courageous. Oh, how could you possibly,
Yeah,
it was okay to do, you know, all the way to what the fuck were you thinking?"
yeah.
So, um, but in the moment you feel led. You just know, it's what
Yeah.
I call knowing with a capital K,
It's a
sometimes
knowing. Yeah.
A-N.
It's an
Um,
absolute knowing.
and and but it's not your brain that's telling you
Mm.
it's okay. Your brain is still shooting off all the messages other people are
Oh,
saying to you.
sure. Sure.
It's your soul, it's
It's your
callings
soul's
are
calling. Yeah.
cool.
It's your soul's calling. And I think when we're younger, um, it is easier to throw caution to the wind and just say, why not? Let's try it. As we get older, I think we get more and more inclined to sort of hold back, which is a shame. Yeah.
Well, I was 54 when I came here, so no comment. But
So yeah, you were ahead of the curve.
generally, well, I was ready for a new stage of my life. I was
Yes.
getting ready to think about third acts and things like that.
Right. Right. Right.
And also recognizing that I had spent my whole life trying to be who people expected me, and
Mm,
what society told me. I had the American dream life. I mean, both of us, they need to make movies out of these stories. Um,
hmm.
I had such a good life by so many people's standards, and
Right.
yet I wasn't being myself. I was in
It
America
wasn't the life that was fulfilling
with
you. Yeah.
myself. I was trying to be what he wanted and what his parents wanted and all of that.
Right.
And what
Exactly.
was told would make me happy. But guess what?
Hmm.
I got there and I got fully, all the way up there. And, that part of me that had wanted to be in South Africa from the time I was a tiny kid,
Yep.
it didn't go away. It only got louder and louder and louder and louder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I get it.
from the day I stepped foot here, I have been fully myself. I have
Same.
never not been who I am. That's what I was going to ask you. So same for you.
Yes, absolutely the same, Krista.
Chance to rewrite your story.
Yeah. I've always kind of known, I don't know about you, but I've always known that I would have three chapters in my life. Literally, like almost like three different movies, if you will. And
The prequel, the main event, and the sequel kind of, yeah.
yeah, and I would say the main event was, yeah, moving here and becoming a full-fledged adult and taking this chance and moving to a completely foreign country.
Having children in a foreign country, that's ballsy.
Yeah, yeah. And I did. I ended up, we had two children, Lily and Holden. Lily was born in 1997 and Holden in 2002. And the entire time it was a very rocky relationship, very, very tough. He was alcoholic and abused drugs. And he was a veteran of the, what was Angolan War here in South
And
Africa.
really,
It messed him
I
up
worked with a lot
badly.
of veterans of that war and other
Yeah,
wars.
yeah, it was
How do you function
terrible. Yeah,
normally?
terrible. Just terrible.
Trauma.
So, and he had a lot of trauma and he was kind of the black sheep of the family. And I always thought, you know what? I can fix him. I can fix him through my love.
What
I
is
got
that
this.
with us
What is
empathic?
that?
The fixing,
Right?
because we create things. So we're going to create a new version. I mean,
Right.
I even tried to do that here for 9 years with, someone well. Um,
Yes. Yes. And you know what? It's all very, altruistic to think that you can do that. And, in reality, we each walk our own path, right? Greg
you
was
need
the
to take care
catalyst
of
to get
yourself.
me here. Yeah.
And to have, I mean, you have two incredible human
Oh,
beings.
they're glorious. I would not. And people have asked me because it was a very turbulent relationship, do you regret that? And I just said, I have no regrets. I have no regrets. My only regret is this, Krista, really in my life, is moving so far away from my family
Yeah.
because I adore them and we're really close. My sister and I are best friends. We're soulmates. That has been my only regret that they aren't closer. But otherwise, I have no regrets.
I don't have that piece, although I do have, as I get, I have extended family. I have cousins and aunts and
Yeah,
uncles who are on now.
yeah. You're
Um,
fortunate that way. Yeah.
I am, but my family of origin, I did not have the
Right.
situation that,
Right.
that
Yeah.
very
Very different
just
story.
guided
Yeah.
souls all under one roof. So, and I've found family here. I
Yeah.
hated
Yeah.
them.
Absolutely.
So, and and that's the thing. Again, in that session yesterday, we were talking
Mm.
about that, that story I tell about the little boy with the shells, and he's got them all in the t-shirt, and he's so excited, and then he sees the mother of all shells, this big whelk shell in front of him,
Yeah.
and he just starts crying because he can't let go of what he's got in his t-shirt to
I've
grab.
never heard this story. Okay.
Oh, this was I was home on Cape Cod where I grew up,
Yeah.
September before I came here in November of 2015 for the first time in a very long time. And it was great
Okay.
because I got to see old friends and high school friends and family.
Lovely. Yeah.
And because I didn't know that, I was just coming for a visit. I was just going to
Right.
South Africa for a month. And so we rented a house, four of us, on a beach that I grew up, the beach I learned to swim on. And it's
Okay.
very long and flat. And there are stone jetties at either end. So it
Lovely.
was pretty deserted. It was, end of the season. It wasn't prime season. And there
Yeah.
was a mom on a blanket at one end, and this little boy, maybe about 3, where their legs are still chubby, but they can walk pretty well.
Yeah.
And he had on a big oversized t-shirt, maybe his mom's t-shirt, and he had made a pouch in the front.
Oh,
And
oh,
he had
cute.
obviously collected, you know, beach glass and stone, a lot of
Yes.
it was bulging, a lot of stones.
Sounds like me on the beach. Yeah.
Yeah, we've all done it. And then but he was little, right? So he's got
Yeah.
this huge pouch. I mean, it's like, half his size sideways. And then he steps and he sees what looked like to me like a whelk shell or something like that, but a big shell and fully
Okay.
formed, which, on those beaches you don't find very often. That's a
No,
big,
you don't.
I never even seen one except on Disney movies. And he just stood there, Lori, and looked at the shell and looked at his pouch and looked at the
Oh,
shell and looked at his mom, and she was too far. And he just like did this thing for a while. And
oh,
then he just burst into tears
oh, shame.
because, like all of us, he didn't want to let go of what he had in order to get what he'd always wanted.
And
And
there lies the lesson. What a great story.
yeah, and little did I know in a few months I was going to have to decide if I was going to give up everything I'd collected my whole life.
Oh, that's amazing.
South
That's
Africa
amazing.
with a few suitcases.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Anyone? Synchronicities? Anyone? I don't think that
Yeah.
was a coincidence. So, so that's the thing is you almost always, I just want to keep making these points as we talk about in the magazine, we're talking about transformation, is that there's always, it's not a trade-off. It's not, as you
No.
know, I don't have by her choice any communication with my biological daughter, my only daughter that I gave birth to in the US.
You're
Um, so anyway, I don't have any communication with my daughter in the
okay.
U.S. And people say, well, and I have two daughters here, as you know, an adult and a
Right.
teenager. And people ask me, well, isn't like, did they fill that hole? Did they replace that?
Mhm.
And no, never. They couldn't get,
Oh,
you know, I will always miss
yeah,
her. And yet,
of
I have
course.
wishes, and she's an adult. She was an adult when I left, a young adult, but an adult.
Right.
And
Right.
yet I can't not have the relationship I have with my daughters here. And frankly, I'm a much better mother now, because I'm happy,
Yeah.
I'm being who I am.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know?
Yep.
uh, but
Yeah.
one thing, that big shell doesn't replace everything here. It's a choice, you know, and
Mm.
often a really difficult choice. I mean, I know that you've done your best, and your kids have spent time with your family. You've made that effort to in that and invested the money to make that happen.
Yeah. Very much so.
And yet you don't get to have everything all the time. You
No,
know,
and I think that's just part of what we sign up for on this earthly journey. I think we all make that mistake of looking at someone and thinking, my God, they have it all, right? They're
right.
successful and they've got money and they're good looking and like everything, they're the golden child or just this beautiful soul but I've learned in my 63 years, everybody has a cross to bear. Everybody. Everybody has
And something to
things
learn.
that happen in their life.
To learn
Pardon?
something. We all come here to
Yeah.
learn something.
Yes. Yes. And I really believe we sign up for it. I really do. And I think once you learn those lessons, then you get other lessons to learn.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. And I think that's just the only way we can really kind of get through this life hinged.
it is. It is true. So I'm going to jump ahead just in the interest of time,
Go ahead.
or ask you to jump ahead. So what does life look like now?
Life now it's like a 360. I'm married to the most wonderful man. I was meant to meet him. He's 13 years younger than me. He has fully fallen in love with my children. He calls them his children. We've moved from the Durban area, where I met you, from the coast, the Indian Ocean coast, inland to an area called the Natal Midlands, which is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. So we live in the foothills of the Drakensberg Mountains. I have a gorgeous studio, a new home that we built together. We got married. Life is beautiful. It's not without its challenges, but it's just, I feel spiritually and emotionally stronger and happier than I ever have before in my life.
I see that. I see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And it's been a pleasure to watch that evolution.
Thank you,
Uh,
my friend.
thank you. Um, so I'm going to ask you again because interestingly,
Hmm.
when I asked you how you introduce yourself, you talk about your relationships, and I
Mm.
do believe for many of us that is it's interesting to me that that's what came up first,
It
because
is interesting. I never even thought of that. Yeah.
yeah, it is, and again, we all come to work on different things, and for you, relationships have been a big thing. Family has been a
Yeah.
very big thing
Yeah.
beyond the norm, beyond the norm.
Hmm.
How do you introduce yourself in terms of your work, and how do you see the way, so you mentioned you had a studio, in Wisconsin in 1990. How do you
Hmm.
see, God, we're getting old, Lori, 35 years. How do you
Yeah.
see that, because we were fully adults in 1990.
Yes, we were.
Um,
Yes, we were.
yes, we were. Um, how do you see the evolution of your work? How do you see your personal transformation and growth, and how has that affect your work?
Great question. I would say I've always been drawn to humor in life and in my work. So that stayed pretty consistent, I think. But when I was younger and a little more naive, I just wanted to make beautiful pictures. I love texture, I love color. Um, I'm honored to have enough talent that I can paint quite realistically, but I've chosen to go more of the abstract route because that gives me more satisfaction.
Another
But
similarity.
yeah, but in the last, I would say 5 years, Krista, I'm becoming much more vocal about how I feel about the world, about politics, about spirituality, about the human condition. And and I think that's one of the glorious things about getting older is you just stop caring about what people think.
I
And
don't.
that's
You care.
translating now through my work.
I'm glad, and I see that in your
Yeah.
work. But I
Yeah.
honestly do not care what anyone thinks of me. As someone who
I,
spent a lot of my life trying to make everyone in the world happy, I find that a
oh,
revelation. Are you
I
also at?
feel exactly the same. It is so freeing. It is so freeing.
That's freedom to me. That's heaven to me.
Ultimate freedom. And people, I think Western society is so hard on aging and people getting older and being dismissed as, not as important. But I think I've chatted with you about this other podcast that I adore, a
Mhm.
guy named Chip Conley. And the podcast is called The Midlife Chrysalis. And it's all about approaching middle age and older age in a completely new way. It's a rebirthing, if you will,
Mhm.
emerging from this cocoon that we're in and really starting to reinvent ourselves in our middle to older years. And that's really been exciting for me in the last 6 months, even to just start thinking more optimistically about growing older. Yeah.
What's been coming up for me, I haven't shared this with you yet, in my
No.
own personal work, but obviously it also affects because this has come in since I've been, excuse me, since I've been working on Odyssey. Um, I've been aware for a long time, and certainly what I went through a few years ago in this new book I'm writing about it, the nearly dying, at the hands of someone else deliberately. Um,
Right.
I've just
Right.
been aware, which was an act that was done out of fear. I think most acts like that come from fear of some sort,
Right. Right.
from inner
Yeah.
damage. Obviously, has a lot to do with fear as well. So I've
Absolutely.
just been very aware of how much the world, that the powers who want to be in control use fear to manipulate
Hmm.
people, how much of our lives
Completely.
are run by fear. And so I've been playing with and doing a lot of downloads about, so what's the opposite of fear? And I've always thought it was love. I've always said there are two things, fear and love.
Hmm.
Talked about that. And here's what's coming up.
What
So
is coming
while
up?
we anticipate the bad, the fear, we operate
Right.
from fear. rather, why not anticipate joy?
Mm, I
So
love
this
that.
anticipatory joy.
I
Why
love
not?
that.
There's all the manifest this, and you can't deny the hard stuff. You can't deny the shadow. We don't do that in the magazine. I don't do that in my work. You certainly don't do that. We both become more vocal about things. And look, we have somewhat American accents still, and can in a country that
Yeah,
we can speak about it in. So I think we're somewhat
right,
obligated to do that. But
right.
beyond all that, worrying is like praying for what we don't want. So if we're looking for things
Mm-hmm.
that we don't want, we're going to find them.
Mm-hmm.
What if we anticipate joy? What if we anticipate light? To me, you're,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I hope we'll have all the links here. I'll get those from you, so that people can explore your work. And tell us just a little bit. We just got a few minutes. Tell us just a little bit about your latest project, because I just caught a new ad for it and I love it.
Oh, you're so sweet.
About
Oh,
the
my kimonos. Yeah, so funnily enough, just quickly, I started fantasizing about designing contemporary kimonos back when I lived in Umshloti with you and had these patterns made up. And I've been collecting beautiful Indian saris over the years. And finally, the time has evolved, and I found a great seamstress locally. And I'm making these gorgeous, gorgeous kimonos. And what a joy. So in between painting and doing jewelry, now I'm doing dressmaking, fabric, fashion design.
with the,
Who would have
ex-
thunk it?
I mean, talk about joy. With these exquisite, exquisite fabrics and things that were, I would
Yeah.
imagine, them were originally worn for very happy events, given the colors and the,
Yes.
things like that.
Yes.
You can bring happiness in that form to people. Just
Completely. And you know what I love about them, Krista, is it's a cross-cultural thing, right? Japan, Africa, India, and I suppose America because I'm American. So they embody all of these different cultures, which I love. Yeah.
similarities over differences. It pulls together all the good stuff from all those cultures. And I'm
Completely. Yeah.
can't wait to see what you do next. Always, always. Thank you for being here with
Thank you.
me.
Thank you. Oh, what a joy. I've loved it.
For our listeners too, we will be featuring. Lori's also a poet, and we'll be featuring those, I believe, in our print edition in March. So you can look for that too.
That's
All right.
exciting. Thank you.
Thanks.